and his strong assurance that to people who own guns, whether or not they are registered. So there you have it. Ensure you're calling in and helping with the process to make our society safer.
Well, so Richard Kumadoe is also a security expert, has worked within the structures of national security. And the first question I then will pose to you, following that exciting but also instructive questioning by Beatrice Edu, will be, you take a look at what is done, DDR, post-conflict, where we have disarmament, then we have you have effort to also do some reintegration within that process. And in the middle, we have demobilization. You will find that the weapons are brought, and sometimes for a fee or for a package or for a certain structure of programming. In our country, we have a mixed bag. Individuals with weapons who are not supposed to have them for either their own protection or for maybe for fanciful purposes. And then the last one will be for conflict purposes. So how should we structure this one?
I think the whole idea is to pick up guns from illegitimate people. Then number two is to have guns registered so that we know that these are the number of guns registered by this number of people and for these purposes within the communities. Then the last one, so that we'll be able to trace which gun has been used where and for what purpose. And so this is what the amnesty is out there to cure. If the modalities are performing in such a manner that we can achieve these three objectives, I think that would be good to go.
Okay, so if we have to achieve that, what structure should we be using? I mean, issuing a statement is nice, but there has to be some engagement, right?
Definitely. That is what I think public education is key. Public education is what creates the awareness, and it's what makes people aware what we are doing and where they must surrender their guns. For people who have legitimate arms, who might have overrun their registration process or renewal process. If you cast your mind back, when the IGP and the minister appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, the minister indicated and emphasized the point that from next year, or in a very short time, registration of arms in this country and renewal purposes is going to be electronic, so that people far and near will be encouraged to register their guns. One of the reasons why people do not also register their guns or renew is that the renewal process and the registration process is a little bit worrisome, and that takes people away. But then you also have one category of people whose legitimate business is to import arms into this country. I think that as part of the amnesty, they will need some level of enhanced due diligence regards to the job they do in the number of guns they bring to this country, where the guns are kept, who is accessible to these guns, and who purchased these guns, and whether the guns should even be registered before they are sold, or once people purchase the guns from them and they are sold, they will have some level of reconciliation so they can liaise with the police in that regard. That can also help in dealing with the excesses of arms in the hands of illegitimate people in this country.
But it will mean that if we have to use the structures, public education one, within the communities where we've identified, what should we be using? Who are the key stakeholders we should be using to do those interpersonal engagement with groups, etc., that we think would have the weapons?
If you look at the way Ghana is structured, people own certain category of arms for various reasons. I don't know whether in the modalities that will be coming up, the classifications will be spelled out properly so that people will know which arms to keep and which ones they are not supposed to keep. There are people in this country who manufacture arms, not only those who import arms in this country, they manufacture their arms. I don't know whether in the modalities it's going to be spelled out so that they know which arms to manufacture and when there are excesses, what will happen. In the communities, such as where there are conflicts, or even the whole country, we might want to use the opinion leaders, the local government people, the MPs. It should be part of their public education platforms. The district assembly chiefs, the municipals, it should be part of it. But one of the things Bonan said, Dr. Bonan said, that we need to stress it is that where should people send their arms and what should be the modality, who is taking information, and how transparent that is going to be. If people can really see transparency, I think people will be encouraged to surrender their arms, particularly those that do not belong to them, and it has been passed on to them, and they have no reason for keeping them at home.
Well, that said, it also means that broadly we have to have a program of action. Advisedly, per your experience, what should be that program of action?
I overheard Dr. Bona, the chief executive of the small arms, saying it's going to be from 11th or 15th of November to end of December. We will need to run with the program outline and see how it's going to unfold. Probably depends on the outcome. If they think they can extend it to next year March, to give enough time for people to really surrender their arms, that will help. I would have loved the public education would have started about a month, and engage the media and engage all stakeholders, those who have the ability to speak on these issues, engage them in a month's time before the modalities are out, so that you can be sure that people really understood the message and they know exactly what to do. Having said that, if the modalities are out, we still have 1 month period. We still have 1 month period to get a job done. So within that month, whilst retrieval and recollections and registrations and all those things are taking place, we can still run the public education. But I can tell you, public education is key. Awareness creation is key. People might want to surrender, but if they don't know what to do and where to send their arms and which ones are supposed to send, and those who have legitimate reasons to own their arms, if their licenses have expired and they have not renewed, and that is seen to be something else, we will need to treat those ones separately. Other than that, we might be jamming up the space, and that can also create problem for us. So we will need to wait and see how it unfolds.
But after this, we need to do a mop-up, right? Because usually, if you look at what is done, the disarmament, the demobilization, and then reintegration post-conflict, we're talking about a conflict structure here. They tend to go back and do a mop-up, etc. Do you think that also needs to be part of the program of action, so to speak?
Definitely, yes. So I'm thinking that if they finish in December, they should extend it to March, so that by March, the police will be resourced or the military will be resourced, particularly within the conflict zones. We are talking about Boko, we are talking about Equanta South and North, and we are talking about Sola, Kabatuna, those places that we have seen that we nearly were split into communities of conflict. And they will need to mop up a little bit. Then we can also see what has happened and do the mopping exercises and see where the trends are coming from. And with a little bit of information, they should be able to say that we know there are a number of arms in this particular area. Do we go house to house, or do we allow people to bring their arms voluntarily? And I agree that it has to be extended to probably about March or so.
All right. We'll see how that goes with all the conversations that we're having this morning on this very subject. It is also critical for all of us to know that for things to be done, then it means that the right structures will have to be followed. The current statistics, Richard Kumadoe, is that for those who tend to register guns the first time, they don't come back for, is it the annual regularization or the periodic regularization? Okay. So what should the Small Arms Commission be doing, advisedly?
You see, there's even an issue about those who own arms in this country, the nature of background checks that has been performed on them. We will need to look at it again. Okay. Then the key role of the police is very critical when it comes to gun violence and the use of illegitimate arms by unapproved persons. It's very critical in all this. Then you are also going to talk about the enhanced due diligence for weapon manufacturers and for those who import weapons into this country. Because we are talking about taking the guns from the people. Where did they get the guns from? You will be surprised to know that some of these arms were brought into the country legitimately by people whose business is to import arms into this country. How those guns find themselves into the hands of people who have not registered their weapons is another matter they have to deal with. Then, of course, we have the structure where for those who have guns, who have registered, and they fail to re-register, we have the database, and that wouldn't be a problem for the Ghana Police Service. We will need to improve the process of re-registration, just like the Minister of Interior has spoken about. And I think once that is done, people will be encouraged to register their guns. Probably when it is a month for your registration validity to expire, a message could come on your phone that you have 1 month more to register your gun, or to re-register it, or to renew the license. And with the nature of telecommunication and the prepaid system we have these days, people will be willing to register and re-register their guns if they can have those levels of communication from the registration authorities.
Well, it looks very instructive, especially expansive as well, the things that need to be done. The desire to own guns is also because people need it for protection, right? And so if people want to go through the process, what's your best caution?
Okay, so there are two levels. There are individuals who want to own guns. Background checks will have to be performed. And once you don't have a negative background checks, or the police are convinced that you need to own a gun, they may give you the gun. Well, today, we have a country where corporate institutions, particularly within the mining area, they are either using military officers for their asset protection duties, or they are engaging in security companies that have arms. Either these arms are registered in the name of the security companies, or they are registered in the name of individuals, and they use these arms for asset protection purposes for these mining companies. It's an area the police and the BNI, the Minister of Interior, together with the small arms, will need to look at and create a modality for them, because those guys who want to hold on to their guns and they wouldn't give out on a silver platter. Then you also have other ancillary groups of people who also want to own guns for hunting purposes or for whatever purposes. Then you're also talking about the traditional authorities who want to have some level of guns in their armory. They will need to segregate it. They will need to create a segmentation and make sure they have a control mechanism where regulation and compliance will have to be achieved. Other than that, if you box it up, safety and security compliance will not be achieved, and you are likely to have some level of difficulties in retrieving the actual guns. You will want it out of the hands of the illegitimate people and people who do not have approval.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard Kumadoe, security analyst as well as expert, giving us the latest on all the things that need to be